It is a Gude day, and we're going to be talking to Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Gude, in just a minute. Hey, everybody. Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about what? Scientology and life after a cult. We touch on my 35 years in this cult and leaving with 3 generations of my family. And throughout the week, I do interviews with different people in and around the community. So when you hit that subscribe button, make sure you set your notification bell to all so you can get a notification. Hopefully, sometimes I hear it works. When I go live and do interviews like the one I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to have on Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Gude. He's been on the channel before. We're going to get caught up with him. So if you have questions, please put question in all caps and have your question follow. And we'll see how many of those we can get to. Welcome everybody in the live chat. Great to see the members there. And big thank you to my moderators today. I think we got Nancy here keeping the wheels on the bus. So everybody, let's say hi. Welcome, William.
How are you doing?
I need like clapping. I'm good. Just like I was telling you earlier, just sweating.
I know it's a hot day.
That's right. The Gude father. So we were chatting a little bit right before we went live, and you had an interesting experience when you came home today?
Oh no, I went for a jog about an hour and a half ago. And when I got about, I don't know, 5 blocks away from home, I saw somebody walking their dog across the street. It happened to be my good friend who I went to court against and shellacked him.
That's just crazy. So paint the picture. You're running? You're running down the street?
Yeah, I was running down La Brea and look across the street and somebody caught my eye. I'm like, who's that? I'm like, no way.
You're probably like, what's that smell?
Well, I was thinking if I still had the TRO in place right now, I would technically be violating it because I was within 100 yards. So how nice it is to not have to worry about that. And
yeah,
he didn't look like he was doing so good.
He did it. Did he? Obviously, he see you.
I think he's sick right now. I think he's sick to his stomach.
I bet.
No, he didn't see me.
He didn't see you. You didn't lock eyes.
I mean, of course, I filmed it, but
that is crazy. What about that? And I think most people are familiar with it. He tried to get this temporary restraining order against you. This guy harassed you, kept showing up at the protest. And for anyone that's been living under a rock and doesn't know, William Gude, Scientology Audit Streets LA, started the recent round of protests happening in Hollywood at the Hollywood Testing Center. They've moved to the blue buildings, and it's really taken off really across the globe. Is with this recent case, which you won with Joey Rocket, or Rocket is what he prefers to be called, right?
Yeah, Rocket.
We found out that Scientology, even though he is not a Scientologist, was actually funding his case against you.
Yeah. This guy is a real special case. I feel like he harassed me for months. He would just follow me. He was stalking me. Somehow he tried to flip that around by filing 4 police reports and then getting it's not just that he got a temporary restraining order, but it was for senior elderly abuse, right? So that looks really bad. And if he had won this, that's a hell of a look to be restrained because I supposedly abused an elder.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, if he had won this case, it would have made my ability to protest Scientology nearly impossible because everywhere I would have gone, he would have shown up to. They would have probably paid him full time to just follow me around and purposely try to get me violated because he's been trying to, even during this whole, I haven't been able to talk about this, but even after the temporary restraining order was in place, this guy would watch my streams and try to follow me around and try to find out where I was at and try to get me violated. The guy was stalking me still. And it's so funny because when I won the case, at first I was like, I'm not that mad at him anymore. He's just a stooge. But actually, he tried to ruin my life. So I think I got to go hammer this guy too.
Yeah, I mean, he was extra about it. What was your reaction when you found out that Scientology was actually paying his legal bills to fund this attempt to stop you from protesting and basically to violate your First Amendment right to protest?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the first thing I had when I saw that. I know my lawyer didn't want me to tweet about it, but I immediately tweeted about it because it was just, I needed to talk about that one. I'm sorry that I'm here and they're paying for these lawyers. There's two lawyers on the case and they have like two more on the side. And I imagine they paid $150,000 in this case against me. It went on for 6 months. We had a 2 month trial. I spent 4 days on the stand. They lied on me nonstop. The lying was just out of control. Even when it was proven that the lawyer was lying, he would continue lying. It was just down and dirty and disgusting. And so, yeah, I mean, it feels good to win. Like I said, my thing is, I think that if you're going to use a legal system as a weapon against me, then it's my duty, my right and my duty to warn the community about you. So this guy, Joey, I need to warn the community that he's using the legal system as a weapon on behalf of Scientology. But the same thing with the law firm itself. I want these law firms to think every time you go out here and you do dirt for the Church of Scientology, this human trafficking cult, I'm going to hold you accountable too, especially when you try to misuse the legal system.
Mhm. That is a really good point. I didn't think about that way in terms of the law offices, the people who are actually forwarding this. It seemed like I was surprised that it went on as long as it did because it was such a colossal waste of time that they managed to keep this thing in court. And I think that, and I had said this earlier, Scientology has been underestimating you since day one. And do you think maybe now they're kind of getting the idea of what they're actually up against?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now they know they can't win. They're going to keep on trying to struggle and look for new strategies, but keep coming. The way I look at it, right, with La Poubelle, you're talking about an $85,000 bill that they're going to have to pay. And on
Yeah.
this case, another hundred and something $1,000 that they're going to face in legal fees, paying for my legal fees when we go for a fee hearing.
Mm.
Listen, I'm fine with them keep on taking me to court and just draining them $100,000 at a time. Perfectly fine with me to fund these guys. So,
Yeah.
and it's not stopping me really from exercising my First Amendment right. So it's just a loss for them. At the same time, today, I have my lawyers being interviewed for some of the major law journals about
Oh,
this case. So it's bringing a lot of unwanted attention to Scientology and to these law firms that want to defend the Church of Scientology.
I love that. Can you tell me more about that? Is that something the law journal what's their do you know what their angle is on the story?
Uh,
Is it like the elder abuse or the TRO or because it's Scientology
I'm
or
not
all of
really,
it?
I'm not really sure. My First Amendment lawyer reached out to me today and said that they had somebody had reached out to him about the interview, asked me if I was fine with it. I'm like, yeah, go with it. They asked me if
Yeah.
I wanted to be part of it, and I said, no, I have nothing. I don't need to be part of it because this is very, a legal aspect. So let him run with it. He knows his stuff. He's fantastic. So listen, it's publicity. That's
Yeah.
negative publicity for Scientology. So keep it
Hmm.
coming. I
Yeah.
don't care. Keep on bringing these guys. And I'm at the same time now I get a chance to get my little lick back. I've had to stay quiet on some things
Hmm.
for the last couple of months, and now I get a chance to talk about it. And there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, we're here for it. So whatever you would like to talk about, we can talk
Oh yeah.
about. Niece is asking a question. Are you going to take out a restraining order on Joey?
It's funny because leading up to him getting the restraining order against me, I had actually considered getting one against him because he was just stalking me. He's literally obsessed with me. When we were in court, he would sit at the table and he would turn his chair and he would just stare at me like he wanted my attention. He wants my approval or something. I'm not going to give him any the attention he's
Yeah.
looking for. I think he's just a real big weirdo and, like I said, a useful idiot for the Church of Scientology. But I was actually going back and looking at some other videos, and I actually noticed he's mentioned that he admitted going to the Celebrity Center multiple times. So, I, I to claim that in this trial that he claimed that he had no part of the Church of Scientology. but yet he admitted he went there for the Winter Wonderland opening, and he admitted that he was an invited guest for the New Year's Eve party, and
Ooh.
he admitted that he received a Christmas gift from them. So it's
Wait,
kind of
wait, wait,
hard to
wait, wait,
claim.
wait, 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 wait. He
Mm.
received a Christmas gift. I was 35 years in Scientology and worked for that cult. I never got a Christmas gift.
Yeah, so it was one day I was walking past there, and I just happened to see him go in there. I don't think he saw me out in front, and I saw them hand him a gift. It was right before Christmas, and I don't know if I even ever mentioned that to anybody. And so my lawyer was asking questions, and it just popped in my head. I said, "Ask him if he received it." After he admitted that Church of Scientology paid his legal fees,
Yeah.
she started asking him questions. Have you been at the Winter Wonderland event? Were you an invited guest? He even submitted a ticket that he received for one of these events. And I said, you know what? He got a Christmas gift. Ask him about that. And he didn't see that coming, but yeah,
How did he react to that?
he was shocked. He was like, oh, it was just cookies or something. He was okay. So I'm going to tell you now. I can talk about this. He was
Yeah.
a mess. He was an absolute mess in trial. He was shaking. He needed help to get onto the stand. He was collapsing. When he was on the stand, he was a wreck. My lord tore him to pieces. He was defensive, argumentative. One day he walked out of the courtroom. He just grabbed onto the wall and slid down it and collapsed on the ground and started shaking like a seal, like a fish out of water. And then people all crowded around. And I walked out of the courtroom to go to the bathroom. And I looked, and he's on the floor. I'm like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
And he sees me. He starts screaming, "No, no,
Oh,
no!" And
oh my
so
God.
it was just constant drama with this guy. This guy was just losing it. They had to call an ambulance. And then when the ambulance came there, the EMS came there, and in front of the deputies and everybody, he told the EMS he didn't want him touching. He says, "If you touch me, I will get a restraining order against you." That's what he
Oh,
said
he
to
is
the
not
EMS.
well.
It's so good to talk about this stuff. And
Yeah.
then when the judge came down with her order, and I gotta tell you, I cannot wait to get the written order. It's gonna take some time because the courthouse got hit with ransomware.
Hmm.
And so their system has been down for the last like week and a half or so. So you couldn't even use the internet inside the building. They didn't have access to a lot of files and stuff. So it's going to take a little time for all this stuff to get caught up, probably a couple weeks. I can't wait to get her order. Her order was basically just t- talking about how credible I was and just completely backed my case. And she just talked about how credible it was, but she also talked a lot about the Church of Scientology.
Ooh.
She mentioned quite a few times about possible human trafficking and child trafficking.
Wow. Like
Um,
and do you recall in what context?
I can't remember.
But just kind of
Um,
referring to it in terms of like they're known for human trafficking,
well, that
child
we've
trafficking.
uncovered through our efforts.
Ah, yeah, that's right, because the judge watched hours and hours of
The
your
ju-
live stream.
The judge agreed. So we had a lot of evidence, right? There are a lot of
Mhm.
live streams, and these things were 5 hours long. And even though there would be these incidents where I would have the confrontation with Joey, you need to see it in context over the course of the whole live stream. So she
Yeah.
agreed in advance to watch, like, I don't know, 50 hours of video.
Mhm.
Um, and that's going above and beyond. So she really understood this case well. And yeah, I just think that it was an overwhelming win. I was confident from the beginning. I was never worried. I think my lawyers were a little bit more worried than I was. I was never concerned. And yeah, it just felt good to get this win. It kind of like it's two for two, myself against the Church of Scientology in court. My lawyer, this is her third case, her third win. And
Against
she's
Scientology?
against Scientology because she also, uh, she did my case, Scott, DOA's case,
Mhm.
and my case again. And then she's doing Danny's case coming up, and I think going up against Ken Moxon directly. So I think that will be interesting.
That'll be fun. Do you think that, let's see, Kitty has a question here. William, do you think the lawyers should go to the board and be disbarred?
Um, I don't know about that. I don't know. I know that I'm thinking beyond that. I I'm going to make sure that the community knows everything that these lawyers do,
Yeah.
everybody who's involved, everything that they've done, and that they are working for doing the dirty work for the Church of Scientology. I want to see if this law firm wants to be associated with them. I don't think it'll be a good look over the short, medium, or long term.
No. And what's so great too, I love that the judge took the time to watch so many of the live streams and to become so familiar with everything that's been going on with the protest against Scientology, because you got to win in the case, but it's also one more person in the judicial system who is familiar with the information and facts about Scientology being a human trafficking cult. It's just one more. I just all of that I think helps to educate and raise awareness about what Scientology really is. I am curious, I mean, did the judge have like poker face? It seems like this was so ridiculous and that Joey Rocket was so ridiculous that it was almost like watching animation. I mean, do you think was he playing it up, sliding down the wall, or was he really in that rough of a shape?
It's hard to tell, right? Because in some ways, I feel Jessica saw him on Hollywood Boulevard last week at night, and he was walking just fine.
Hmm.
Um, but when he was in court, he needed help. He was
Hmm.
when they gave the verdict, he was actually literally falling to the side, and people had to come and rush and catch him from falling. And it's whatever. So
Was he
is that
standing?
now he was in his chair.
Falling over.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know if he's a big drama queen. I don't know if he's not. Well, maybe it's a combination of both. I know what he tried to do. He tried to ruin my life,
Hmm. Yeah.
and so I mean, at this point, I actually felt like I said I felt bad for him at the verdict. I don't feel bad for him anymore. He tried to come for me. He would, if he had won, he'd been walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard, trumpeting his win, running after me, trying to come after me. So, and like I said, this isn't just a regular restraining order. This is an elderly abuse restraining order. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
just it's like the worst of the worst. So, yeah, I'm, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you think, what would you give any advice to people who, whether they're already live streaming and protesting Scientology or they're thinking about it, that they should keep in mind when it comes to this tactic that Scientology is using with trying to create these situations to have these false arrests and then restraining orders? Things that they could do to protect themselves, but that they should keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, understand what you're getting into in the first place. Understand that they are going to look for any reason to get you restrained, even if it doesn't mean to actually win the case. They just want to get that initial restraining order. They just want to go in there and say this happened, where you don't actually have to show a whole lot of proof.
Mm,
So understanding that, you know, keep your distance, right?
yeah.
And I've always said, don't touch anybody. Just don't touch them. Make
Hmm.
sure you just don't make contact in any way because they are going to use that. Don't make any threatening motions. Don't make any threats to them. I understand that I walk a certain line. I recommend people don't do that. You don't have to do that.
Hmm.
You got to just protect yourself. They play dirty. So you got to do, but at the same time, you shouldn't let it scare you either, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't become paralyzed by it. They get a lot of mileage off of scaring people, either through a perception of something like some sort of physical altercation or something physical happened, or by using the judicial system
Yeah.
inappropriately by getting these temporary restraining orders. So listen, you just gotta play it smart. You know, play it smart, keep your distance, but understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
Understand that the fact that they're using these tactics means that they don't have any other tactics to use. This is a losing
Exactly.
battle. They can't win this over the long run. And each time they do this, it shows that they're misusing and abusing the legal system.
Yeah, it does every single time. And even, think about the current situation where they've had L. Ron Hubbard Way closed for weeks now.
Months.
Months?
I
What?
would say at least 2 months.
What are your thoughts about that? What
I'll
do
be
you
honest
think
with you.
they think they're doing?
So I'll be honest with you. So they just want to. I mean, it started off because I think that there was the encampment in front of there, and they planned on doing that. They were going to ride around
Mhm,
the uh, the building in the cars, and they wanted to stop that, so they set it up, and it's just continued. So they put the planters there. They're afraid that there's going to be an encampment set up on L. Ron Hubbard Way, and they want to prevent that. So they're going and they're just going above and beyond. I know for a fact that all of that annoys the community. All of that.
mhm,
It does. That all this just completely shutting it down, and essentially they've commandeered it. It's one of those things like I don't, if I had more time, I'd work on it right now. But if I had a time, I would fight that so hard. And I'd be at the city clerk's office, at streets department, down city council, demanding answers on why this religious organization supposedly has commandeered this street.
mhm.
Open it up. There's no reason, especially when these aren't real events. These are
Yeah.
fake events. There aren't people showing up to their events. It's just staged.
Mhm.
And so, come on now, do something about this. It's unfair. It's not right.
There even Audit LA had she on her stream the other day, and I highlighted it this morning. She was talking about how there's someone in the city planning office that's telling people if you want to have an event on L. Ron Hubbard Way, just go straight to Scientology because then it's only like $1,000 or $2,000 instead of this $5,000 fee. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? I've said many times on my channel, have joked about how Scientology has become nothing more than a venue with these big buildings that they use. They either allow, I don't know if they allow it or they rent to other organizations
Hmm.
where they feel might lend them some legitimacy, and they will go as far as to claim responsibility. They had an organization there in, I think, I forget which org it was at, could have been Burbank, but where there was an organization bringing together immigrants, families that got split up, bringing them together. And Scientology put out a press release saying how they did that. Like they were so much more a part of it. They're nothing more than a venue. And it seems that L. Ron Hubbard Way is becoming that.
It's a whole joke. Listen, well, this is, there's no way to sustain this. First off, it gets them nowhere. And there's no way to sustain this. At best, it gets them press releases that
Yeah.
nobody even reads.
Nobody but
So
me to make fun of them.
it seems like it's more for internal consumption, or at least maybe they mean for it to be for external consumption, but nobody's reading it, so it only becomes internal consumption. It gets them nowhere, and again, it's annoying them with the community. Like I said, you haven't really seen the LAPD coming to the rescue like they used to be.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it seemed before like, oh my gosh, as soon as somebody showed up with a camera not long after, they would show up. But
Now
that
they're
seemed to
done.
have
They
changed
keep
a
on doing it
little.
over and over again. It's just, and it's gotten them no good press.
Yeah,
I think that they've been love bombed by the Church of Scientology for so long, but the community has never cared for them around here. And then you have all these streamers and TikTokers and stuff talking about this relationship and how the relationship between the LAPD and politicians, including Karen Bass in the past, have had this connection. And I think now it's starting to sever. I think they're like, they're not worth the headache. All this drama, they're bringing a whole lot of drama. What are we getting out of this? My kids are seeing me being nice, coming to the rescue of the Church of Scientology, and their friends are are ridiculing my kids. Seriously, family members and friends are seeing that, so they don't want to be caught up in this anymore. So I think those days, it's been a grind, but I think the days of them coming to the aid of Church of Scientology are pretty much over. Listen, they'll
yeah.
try here and there, but
Well,
it's not going to be the same.
yeah, you said early on that this is a PR war. This is a public relations war. We just need to keep our nose clean, keep doing our thing, and it's easily won because Scientology is known for having some of the worst public relations in the world. In fact, not that long ago, there was there was, I forget where it was done, but there was this whole survey done about how you feel about certain religions. And Scientology was the worst with Satanism.
Ooh.
So people don't think well of them. Ingrid's got a great question. Thank you, Ingrid. When all of this first happened, did you think they were this bad?
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, I figured they were going to be dirty.
Yeah.
No, actually, yeah, I thought they were going to be this bad.
You
I
did. You
didn't
thought
think
they
they
would
could
be this
win.
bad. Yeah. Yeah, that says a lot because it's, I think that's something that sometimes surprises people when they first start to, expose even a lot of the newer live streamers and protesters, is just how far they'll take it, or how just cold and inhumane it can be. And that makes so much sense to me because I know how they treat their own people, how they treated their staff and people in the Sea Org. And if they treated them that way, they're definitely not going to go out of their way for somebody they see as a threat. And it's not in Scientology's wheelhouse to come out and go, hey, what's the issue? Like, what can we, what's the deal? I feel that what happened with you in the beginning, where you were outside filming the police, and then one of the Scientology Sea Org members, got mouthy, and what they tried to do with you early on is how they think they're supposed to handle people who are critics of Scientology. That aggressiveness, that the belief in Scientology is part of the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, that if someone is attacking Scientology, they have crimes and they are a criminal, and you have to do a noisy investigation to find out what's going on. And it's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, listen, like I said, I was filming the police and they started interrupting me. And I think the problem they faced is that they were used to having this very good relationship with the LAPD. And so in front of the LAPD, they were saying that I had to move from where I was, and they were expecting the LAPD to do their dirty work. Little did they understand is I have a relationship with the LAPD, and trust me, they are not going to tell me what to do. And so they kept on getting louder and louder, trying to get the LAPD involved. And I told them, I said, the LAPD, they're not going to do anything. They're going to stand right there. They're not even going to look in my direction. And I think they were a little shocked by that. So they kept on trying to escalate, hoping the LAPD was going to get involved, and it never did. And by that point, it was too late. By that point, they went too far. And
Yeah.
because I felt like, okay, you're really interfering with what I'm doing with my cop watching stuff. And if you think you're going to get away with that, I'm going to teach you a major lesson. And they've learned it.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely did. That's been one of the things that I have enjoyed the most in watching this, because from the beginning, like, you could tell Scientology tried these different tactics, like sending Scientologists to videotape you all back. These
Yeah.
things, they're dealing with solutions from 1950 written by a science fiction writer, and they really can't do anything too different. And they also severely underestimated you and seem to think that their regular tactics would work. And you've just stood the test of time here. And now, having won this recent case, I mean, I just can't even imagine the meetings going on behind closed doors right now.
I mean, you know what it was? It was the meetings that were going on closed doors when I couldn't really discuss the case. Now I'm just looking forward to going out there. Listen, like I said, I have a lot of things to talk about with this case. And I think, with the Church of Scientology saying they had nothing to do with my case, that Joey was not a Scientologist, has nothing to do with the Church of Scientology, but admits on a stand that the Church of Scientology paid for his fees. And then you have Ken Moxon sitting in the audience in the courtroom watching it. Why were they there?
Yeah.
If this didn't involve the Church of Scientology, why are they there? I'm happy they were there because I got a chance to say some things to them on the way out. And I don't have a high opinion of this guy. I don't think he's the smartest guy in the world. So I look
What did you
forward to seeing.
say?
I said I'm like, I told him it was like, yeah, another loss for you.
Mhm.
You'll never beat me. I'm gonna end your cult. Something like that.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't want to get
Moxon's
too
a
loud because the bailiff
Scientologist.
was right behind me, and I didn't want to embarrass my lawyers. I was like, we just got to win. I don't want to. But I couldn't. I saw him sitting there. I couldn't help it. I just got, I leaned toward him so he could make sure he could hear me. And
Yeah.
he just sat there. Him and Jennifer sat there looking straight ahead, looking silly.
Keeping in their TRs, as they
Oh, but
say in
yeah, but
Scientology.
afterwards they got together with Joey's lawyers and his crew all together. So they became part of their little circle. So I think that's interesting.
Wow, that it's so interesting to me how they just don't learn how, there's no change within Scientology to change the tactics because you're dealing with an actual true cult that just believes in that black and white thinking of L. Ron Hubbard. Power lies to paralyze, says Will. Mydriasis is the clinical term for Xenuwise. Thanks for filming it in Sea Org members. I don't know if you saw, there was a video of, oh wait, I don't know, was it a video of yours? Somebody did a short about it and took all the different Xenuwise and then shared the medical explanation. And it was kind of scary
Wow, I
because it's
didn't
caused by trauma. Like
wow.
it's a thing.
I mean, because I'll be honest with you, it was hard to like look at Lurch or Shannon or they all seem to have that certain
Yeah.
look in their eyes, and I was like, that's just not healthy. Something's wrong
Mm-mm.
here. You know, that's a symptom of something greater.
Yeah. Well, you're completely right about that. Now, you knew when you started, you were saying that they were, this bad, that they would play this dirty. What has been like some of the more, has anything been difficult for you in terms of, because sometimes when people start playing dirty, it just starts to be like, whoa, like I guess what I'm saying is that you do a good job of being able to manage your emotions. And when it comes time, I've seen you, like when a situation calls for it, you will like let them have it and then go right back to a nice calm conversation over here, which really shows that you have a really good control, I think, over that. And I think that's such a key point from where I sit of being able to deal with Scientology and be an effective protester too, because you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. How do you what do you attribute that to? If you know what I'm saying, that like, you know what, not everybody can in that moment, like reel it in. And you've kept people too, like, hey, out of trouble at times too, when things got heated.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's a PR battle. So understanding that you can't make any mistakes. Now you could walk things to an edge, but you have to be able to reel it back in. What I would say is there are ways that I go about doing things. Not everybody has to do it the same way I do it. Everybody has a different way of doing it. The way you look at it when the original protest was out there, the way I protested is actually way different than the way Jessica protested,
Yeah.
or the way both Chris's protested, or
Mhm.
Sergio. So you just got to find your own way. But at the end of the day, you always do have to reel it in, because the way I look at things, we want to make sure we want to bring as many people in as possible. We want to make sure that it's friendly for kids and families. And like
And when you say that friendly for kids and family, kind of like, can you like, what does that look like?
yeah, listen, it's not that, hey, I've said a few curse words here and there, right?
What?
But
I know
but that
sometimes it was hard to clip your videos because F bomb, F bomb, F bomb.
but at the same time, we don't want to. We do not want to throw any punches. We don't
Mhm.
want to get physical. We don't want to instigate the fights. We want to try to de-escalate as much as possible. We want to keep it light and friendly and happy, and
Yeah.
like I said, inclusive. We want people to sit there on the corners watching as an audience, having a
Hmm.
good time. And so it's important then to understand that you can't always be ultra aggressive. I'm an aggressive person naturally when I protest. The way I protest the police is different than I'll say I protest a Scientology event, unless they kind of both end up meeting together at the event. But yeah, like I said, it's a PR battle. I don't know how I keep my emotions under check, because I never feel, even when I'm angry, or when you when you see me screaming and stuff, I'm always totally under control. I think these are things that people underestimate in me. I think
Yeah.
they see me in these animated videos. I think the lawyer in this case underestimated me. I think he thought he can get on my skin and make me angry and yell, and he was
Mm.
the only one angry and yelling. I was just toying around with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Other than that, everybody's got to do it in their own way.
Have you always been like that though throughout your life, or is this kind of a skill that just developed? Because I know, as someone like I'm 53 years old, just by living life and experiences, like I've gotten better at certain things and have gotten more, felt like I understand the need for time and a place and when you need to kind of like manage those emotions, especially when you have to de-escalate. De-escalation, I think, is such an important tool in so many situations, and knowing when that's needed. And that's something I think that we saw you do a lot. And when you say, like keeping it family friendly, because as you said, sometimes you would drop F bombs and stuff too. But I remember in the early days of the testing center, when you guys first started live streaming outside there were families. People were stopping. It became a tourist attraction
Oh
in
yeah.
in Hollywood.
Yeah, listen, so the test center has been closed now for 6 months and 1 week. It closed on January 20th and hasn't reopened yet. They originally, when we were looking at the email communications, they were talking about reopening on March 1st. Then they pushed it back and they said to the beginning of spring. And here we are. They still haven't reopened. They're missing the summer season when they're getting a ton of foot traffic over there. They're missing all of that. I
Hmm.
think I do think that they were sort of waiting for the culmination of this case with Joey to see if they could get me restrained, and then he would just spend his days hanging out over there, and maybe they reopen then. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I kind of feel like they're trying to find ways to get back out there. They've shown up at flea markets throughout LA, but
Hmm.
people show up there, Chris shows up there, and next thing you
Yeah.
know, they pack it up and leave. They show up in Venice, made them pack it up and leave. They're stuck right now. I can't imagine they're in a good place because they have to bring in, you have attrition, right? You need to bring in new members, you need to bring in new money.
Hmm.
And it's not looking good, along with the fact that you have all these streamers throughout the country.
Hmm.
And at the same time, just
And the world even.
in the
There was just
world,
a big protest in Denmark that happened.
and the attention, it's they've gotten a lot of attention. I think when you think of Scientology, a lot of people think it's synonymous with it's a cult. I think we
Hmm.
brought a lot of attention to that just by going viral and TikToks and the silly stuff.
Yeah.
But those silly videos go a long way, right? It gets to
Mhm.
the kids see it, and next thing you know, they're telling their parents. So I think right now, I think we're in a really good place. I think they're in a really bad place.
I would agree with that. Capricious Caroline has a great question because you were talking about when protesting, doing things that are good for the community. How do you go about building relationships with local businesses?
Oh man, if you go past the test center right now, first off, if I go past there, they'll be like, hey, my guy. They're gonna say thank you. We had some people who came over here during the weekend who said they saw your videos and you gave us a shout out. So I always give them shout outs. All the businesses around there, the
Yeah.
food vendors, whoever, the tour vans, any of the businesses, I go out of my way to shout them out. The street performers, the nightclubs over there, I'll shout them out.
Hmm.
I want to make sure we target Church of Scientology is our target. We want to treat all the businesses around there very well. When we were at La Poubelle, I spent $150 a night on ice cream over there at the ice cream place to make sure we take care of those businesses too, so they weren't feeling like we were hurting their business. So that's sort of the way you go about doing it. And there are other
What?
ways too.
Yeah, and
It's free
that's so
publicity,
important.
giving them publicity. Just shout them out while
Yeah,
we're shouting down the Church of Scientology. We'll shout out the businesses that are around there.
that's right. Shout down the shut shout down the cult, but shout up the businesses.
Yeah, it isolates them. It isolates them with all the businesses. They're used to having their sort of S relationships. Maybe they give them cookies for Christmas every year. But all the businesses around the test center, they've turned their backs on the Church of Scientology because they do way better being on our side. Way better.
Yeah, that's true. And I think they see that having that support too, because, a protest for some businesses around it can be disruptive, or even when Scientology does their thing. We saw that in Chicago, where they shut down all of these streets, and in other areas where they get their permits and they violate the permit, they just pretty much do what they want. And that hurts the other businesses. And like you
Sure
said,
does.
going in there, to be able to show them some love and shout them out on social media, because most businesses understand the power of social media. And a lot, I mean, many of you, I mean, your channel's just exploded and you're still doing Film the Police. And same thing with Jessica and Confident Chris, where they just continue to grow and people see that. Do you think somebody was asking something about a reenactment of the court case with Jessica?
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know what that was about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna do a reenactment. We're gonna do a couple of them. So first off, Jessica took the stand in my case, and she was fantastic. I
So
didn't tell
tell
her
me,
she was
tell me
taking.
about that.
Yeah, I didn't even tell her she was taking a stand. I just wanted her to go up there fresh and not like rehearsed or stressed. Not that she would ever get stressed. So they put her on the stand, and they were just asking her a bunch of ridiculous questions, and she was just kind of like looking at the judge like, "Why do I have to answer this?" And the judge was kind of, I guess, sense the judge was getting annoyed. And at one point, they're like, "Why do you call him Joey?" She's like, "Because I guess that's his name." You say, and then they're like, "You say that because you were trying to make him seem silly, aren't you? You're trying to make him seem silly. You call him Joey because you want to make him seem silly." And she's like, "No, I think Joey's a perfectly normal name. My brother's name's Joey." And she was really good. They would try to come at her and catch her on little things here and there, and she's just so quick, so good.
Yeah, her
So I,
mind is really quick. That's why she's so funny.
so I think we'll do some reenactment of her being on stand, and I think we'll do some. I think maybe she'll reenact some Joey reenactments.
Oh, I would love that. Is there anything else that happened with the case that you've just been like dying to share as well, that you've just not been able to talk about? That has to be such a relief to be able to just like
I
now
mean,
not be held back.
there's so much. It is. I need to go through the transcripts because I only have one batch of transcripts because we got rushed transcripts when there was a delay, when there was like a pause in the trial for a few weeks. So we got rushed transcripts so the lawyers could craft some like cross examination questions and closing arguments. So I haven't had a chance to go through those. I want to go through those, and then we're going to have the final transcripts. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything because there's like 1,000 things.
Yeah, I know how
So
that
I
goes.
need to go through the transcripts one by one. I'm just kind of like annoyed with how much of a liar everybody is on the other side. And most of all, I'm just really happy with my lawyers. I think my lawyers just absolutely crushed it. I think my lawyers are creating a model for other people to use to fight back against these
Mhm.
frivolous Scientology restraining orders and potential lawsuits in a way that every time that they file one, we immediately anti-slap and go on the offensive and and come on the attack after them and then force them to pay monetary damages, legal fees when it gets slapped. I think that's important. I think because I I lawyers are expensive. So
Mhm.
it's an avenue for lawyers to get paid without having to be paid up front. And so lawyers throughout the country will say, maybe I will take those Scientology cases because they're actually really easy to win, and I'll make $30,000 off of it.
I
So
thought that when I after the Francois Coster fiasco with her temporary restraining order and her having to pay that $85,000 in legal costs, I thought, oh my gosh, I thought exactly what you just said. It would make so sense if I'm an attorney and
oh,
there's especially with these protesting happening around the country and even outside the country. Why wouldn't you do that? Because you can get them to pay for your legal fees, and they are abusing the legal system and wasting time. Like they are going to lose. It's not something that they're going to win, but they're going to keep trying it. Do you think because I mean, I'm making the assumption, do you think that Scientology will continue to try to use this tactic of getting restraining orders to stop somebody from protesting? Do you think that they'll go after specific people they see as being more active in it, or that they're just going to go for low hanging fruit, wait for one to get away from the group and then go after them?
I think that their use of these restraining orders at the Blue Building are did two things. It ended the encampment and it prevented the caravan around the Blue Building. Even though they won't get permanent restraining orders in the long run, it
Yeah.
did serve that purpose of stopping the protests there. Now, with that having been said, they're going to pay for that, right?
Hmm.
And with that having been said, in the long term, this won't get them anywhere. They'll use these short term tactics, but my thing is, after a while, it'll they're going to have a harder. It's going to be harder and harder for them to actually get any of these temporary measures. They'll wear out their welcomes with the court. The court does not appreciate being misused like this, and so this won't last forever. So then what? After that, then what? I don't think they know what comes next.
Yeah.
Right now, listen, they're on the. We're looking at the death rattle of the Church of Scientology. We really are. People have need to see the stage that they're in right now. Like I said, they cannot recruit. They cannot bring in new money. Tom Cruise does not want to go and do an interview and pump up the Church of Scientology and talk
Mm-mm.
about it. Any project he's involved with is going to say, please don't talk about the Church of Scientology. We don't want it ruined. You're not going to see young actors go out here and say, hey, I am a Scientologist. Why? Because it will ruin their careers. So, I mean, like I said, it's a death spiral they're on, and it's fun to watch.
That's so true. Do you think that, I guess it depends on what happens, but that if, Joey Rocket, elderly man, continues to, with his behavior following you, because wasn't there even once where he showed up when you were like shopping for ice cream, like you were in the
Yeah,
grocery store
he
and
was
he
always
was
shopping. If
there?
I was live streaming, he was watching, but he was doing it specifically because he knew he had a temporary restraining order against me. And by showing up, he was trying to get me violated time and time again. Now
Yeah.
he can't do that. Show up. He can show up. I'd love for him to show up. We'll have a conversation. I'll film it. It'll be really, you know,
Yeah.
those tend to not go very well for him. So yeah, show
No,
up. We'll talk about it, Joey. Let's talk about your loss.
that's right. I'd love to hear him talk about it. Katie Lynn says, does she, so Francois Coster, does she owe 70,000 just for your legal fees, or is that for both you and DOA?
Um, it's actually being adjusted because they're putting in more motions and stuff like that. So it's actually going to be more than that. Other than that, my lawyer told me to not say anything about it until they update their numbers with Leah Safian.
Yeah,
But
cool.
no, listen, they're gonna be paying a lot of money.
That they are. Susie says, can Streets explain how they tried to use his chat against him? Should creators be concerned?
No, no, listen, they're just desperate. No, just because just because a lawyer tries to use something doesn't make it fact. The lawyer tried to say I doxed him because I posted a picture of his LinkedIn profile. It's his LinkedIn profile. It's public.
It's that
You,
social media.
it's on social media. It's not doxing. It's not. And so what they said is now this is really funny. When I used to get to the test center to start live streaming, I get there about a block away. I would start my live stream, and then I'd walk that block and do my thing, do my protest. One day I was a block away from there. I saw my live stream, and somebody stopped to talk to me, and they were telling me about their experiences with Scientology, and I was talking to them. And I guess the comments in the chat were saying, Joey's there, Joey's there. And so the lawyer said, you came there that day just to come and attack Joey because your chat said he was there. And I was like,
Oops. I'm sure William will be right back. Looks like he dropped the call there, but he'll be right back. Snooky, thank you so much for that sticker. We have a few more questions to get to. So again, if you have questions, go ahead and put question in front and throw it in there, and we'll see how many more we can get to. The super chats get automatically starred. So if you write question, we can hopefully find those. Let's see. I'm going to grab a couple of these while we wait on him, see if he can come back in there. Oh, there we go. We got you back.
somebody gave me a phone call. You know how it is.
Oh, I know. I always forget to put my phone on Do
I
Not
know.
Disturb when I'm streaming from a phone. I,
Um,
go ahead. Do you remember what you're saying?
yeah, where did I leave off at?
I think about like if Joey's going to continue to follow you, can you get a restraining order on him? I mean, if he
I,
does,
I
if
had
he's
thought
following
about
you,
that before he got it on me. I
yeah,
literally thought about that. But listen, I don't think he's gonna follow me around. Right now. He's worried that I'm gonna ruin his life. That I'm gonna humiliate him. he's going through his stuff, and honestly, I'll actually leave him alone. I'm not going to rub it in his face too much,
Yeah.
not too much.
Yeah. But that's very kind of you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my fight is with the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
He was used by them. He's a stooge. He's not very smart.
Yeah.
He, yes, he did try to ruin my life, but he's not the big fish.
Hmm. Yeah, he is not. Mary James has a question. Is it safe to say, quote, the whole world rejects you? Yet?
Absolutely. Getting back to, I remember what we were talking about, the chat, them using
Oh,
the
yeah,
chat
yeah, yeah.
against me.
That's right.
So yeah, I had showed up to the scene. Somebody was talking to me, and like I said, people were posting chat saying, Joey's there, Joey's there. And the lawyer said, you came here just to confront him because the chat said that. And I said, well, that makes no sense because I only live stream when I'm protesting. And I could have only seen those comments when I was getting ready to protest. So I was already on my way there. And most importantly is I don't even look at the chat. Everybody knows I don't look at the chat like that. And he's like, no, you take your direction from the chat. You take you let your chat run. He was telling me that my chat runs me. I do what my chat says, which is just honestly a whole joke. Anybody who knows better than that. Like,
Yeah, anybody who's been in your chat knows that is not the case. They just are there to behave, keep an eye out, and enjoy that pocket time.
yeah, but he was literally trying to make it, and then he was saying, you have these memberships and you are making 20, 30,000, I don't know, like tons of money from memberships. And I said, no, I don't make a whole lot from memberships. He's like, you do. You have 250,000 subscribers, and how many members do you have? I said, you know what? My phone's over there at the table. Go to my phone. I'll tell you exactly how many members I have and how much I made. So I pulled it up and I said, okay, I have 100 members, and I made $350 last month. He was expecting to be like tens of thousands, and he was
Yeah.
shocked. He didn't know what to do.
Which is so dumb because even if you were, I mean, that's kind of like the idea. This is time. Content creation is a job. People who are
So,
doing it should be compensated for it.
so their rationale was that I do this to make money, and I was specifically using Joey to create content to make money. And I'm
Where's the
like,
crime, though? Even like hypothetically, where's the crime?
no, there is no crime. And
Yeah.
honestly, I wanted, the only thing I wanted Joey to do was leave every time he showed up at the protest. I was just
Yeah.
trying to get rid of him. I wasn't trying to keep him there. And they're like, yeah, and I didn't make money off of Joey. He
And you would
thinks a little too
ignore
highly
him.
of himself.
He does.
He's
Narcissist
not that
much.
important, Joey. Joey, you're not that important.
Yeah. I remember when he would show up, you would ignore him and tell people to ignore him
Yeah.
too. When he
I
would
say
try to get
ignore
into
him.
it.
His own son reached out to me, and he's like, oh, listen, I'm so embarrassed by this. Yeah, that's my dad, and he's out of control, and the only thing I ask is just ignore him, because that's what we do. We all ignore him, so you just ignore him. So that's what I try to tell people to do is ignore him.
Yeah.
And
Wow, his own son reached out. So his son was aware of this.
yeah, I mean, there was an instant the night when they had them all out there filming us with their
Yeah.
masks on. That's when Joey showed up, and he was got into a fight with 3 kids across the street from the protest, like an argument. I don't know. There was, and some people said, "Hey, Joey's getting into a fight over there with some kids." I went over there and I was like, break it up. We're not doing this here." I got between them and I told the 3 kids to back up. And I said to Joey, "You're fighting with kids now?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "No, they assaulted me." And I made him back up. And then he said to me, "Do you want to talk now?" I don't want to talk to you. And then he's like, and I said, "Go talk to your son," because his son just reached out to me that day. And then he said to me, "Well, have you been praying for your son?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, I basically told everybody to leave him alone, get him out of there, and
Mhm.
chanted, "Save that dog." But then he went to the police station immediately after that, filed a crime report against me, claimed I committed battery because he claimed I sent those 3 kids over there to fight him, and then I helped them escape from the scene. Me going over there to break it up was me helping them escape from the scene. He used that. That was one of the 2 major incidents that he cites for the restraining order. He used my good deed of saving him from getting his butt kicked
Yeah.
and twisted it around on me.
Wow. That is
Shameless.
next level crazy. To have such a twisted, do you think that initially when this dust up between when he started coming after you and following you, was he, do you think he was put up to it, or he did it and then Scientology was like, hey, you got to beef with this guy, we want to help you? Do you have any idea?
Here's what I think, right? So my beef with Scientology started in April. I didn't really I was waiting until after I came back from vacation to start really going after him, which was like
Yeah.
mid-August. But even then, I was spending very little time actually doing it. I was posting TikToks and stuff, but I was just essentially spending 5 minutes in front of the test center, just stopping a few people from going in, and then posting on TikTok. And then people were like, "Oh, you spend your whole day out in front of there," not realizing this was just done while they're on a lunch break. But it wasn't until it was the Winter Wonderland when I opened it. That's when things
Mm,
started becoming more organized and more serious. That's when Jessica and I and Chris all got together and said, "Hey, let's invite people to come out. Try to get some people to come out here." And we got like 50 people out there that night, maybe 70. It was a lot of people,
yeah.
and it was like the first major, like sort of organized protest. And that happened to be the event that Joey showed up at first, and he made a beeline right at me within 5 minutes of me getting there. And within 10 minutes of me getting there, he was trying to get the cops to arrest me. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I do believe that they put him up to that. I do.
Yeah, seems like maybe they might have used him for things before, and he's there and he's susceptible to
And he's
whatever his
67,
motivation.
so that makes it a senior abuse if you do something to him. And so, yeah, I believe he was a plant.
Well,
I
we saw
the
that with Danny too, with the scooter guy who
same
went
thing.
at Danny with his scooter, elderly gentleman, older.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So I truly believe that he was a plant. I'll say it over and over again. I believe that Joseph Eckers is a plant for Scientology. We do know for a fact the Church of Scientology compensated him over $100,000 in lawyers' fees, and I wish we had found out if he received any direct payments too. I bet he did. I have no proof of that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow. That he just each time I just thought, oh no way he's gonna keep doing this because it keeps showing up every time he showed up for you. I could not believe it. I'm like, this guy's a stalker.
Where to get him though? Where to
Yeah,
get him?
exactly.
Right now, he's over there having a panic attack, and just things aren't good for him right now. He's worried about backlash, and he's worried about being, now he had a breakdown when he found out, when he had to admit that the Church of Scientology paid his lawyer's fees. And it was his own fault because he introduced it by mentioning that he would consider getting a restraining order against Mindy. And when my
Mhm.
lawyer said, "Oh, is that true? Then why didn't you get it?" He says, "Well, because this case is very expensive," talking about my current case. And she said, "Oh, okay. If it's very expensive, has the Church of Scientology been paying for it?" They objected, but my lawyer said he's the one who introduced this. He's the one who mentioned that this case was so expensive. So we want to know if they paid for it. And he had to answer that question. And we found out.
And the answer was yes, Scientology is paying for it.
The Scientology paid for another loss.
Wow. What was that like? Because that was in the courtroom when he had to say that. In my mind, in my fan fiction, there's audible gasps.
Yeah, my lawyer just kind of looked at me and gave me the side eye, and it was like that was big. We all knew that they were paying for it, but to get him to admit it, and now it's in the record, and I have it
Yeah.
in the transcripts. It is what it is. So yeah, I mean, that was a good moment.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Ken's channel, thank you for that, says the amount of money and energy Cult of Scientology spent on this, I'll bet another character unlock is around the corner. So be careful.
No, I look forward to him. I love this game. This is my
Yeah.
favorite game.
What's next?
I mean, what's next? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do some stuff tonight. Um, Jessica and I have some stuff planned.
Nice. Can't wait to
Um,
see.
no, I think this will actually be pretty good. Um, I think we're gonna start bringing some more attention back to the Church of Scientology and making the public aware of things. So, really, the ball's in their court. They're closed down everywhere they go. Right, everywhere you go, they're kind of just hiding.
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, they're technically operating, but they're not actively recruiting in the open like way they were. They need to. So when are they going to get back out there doing it? Whenever they get back out there doing it, we're going to be right there waiting for
Yeah.
them. They think, even if they got rid of me, even if they got rid of all of the protesters that are around right now, if they came walking out on Hollywood Boulevard trying to recruit people, you're going to have a million tourists who will be like, that's those Scientologists.
Yes.
And they're going to pull out their phone. If I go in front of the test center right now, there are going to be people in front of the test center taking selfies or
Yeah.
walking by saying, that's that place. I saw that place on TikTok. I saw that place on YouTube. So what do they do? I don't know what they do. Balls in their court. I just know that when they do come back out there, we're going to have our fun.
Well, I can guarantee you that what they're going to do is going to be something stupid.
And I'm going to be right there to help aid them with their stupid stuff.
And I can't wait. I'm going to just grab a few more of these questions. First, Flea Dog, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Natalie, your hair is fabulous. Thank you. Got a haircut today? Thank you for noticing.
Me too. Me
You
too.
did too?
Yeah.
And Casey Cat, way behind catching up, but love to you, Nat. And big congrats to Will on the court case. I don't know about so LA Deb is saying Joey trying to revive his career. He did the voice of Simba on The Lion King. That's why he struts down Hollywood Boulevard. Is that true?
Yeah.
He did. He played the
Yeah.
voice of
He was
Simba
one of 4 people that worked on that character. Yeah.
on the movie, the Disney movie.
Yeah. So that's why he's kind of like living off of this past. And so he's actually used to being like sort of, he thought of beloved in Hollywood. He'd walk up and down there and he would talk about his history and I was this and I was that. But that was a long time ago and kind of lost its luster. And then all of a sudden he comes on Hollywood Boulevard and then you have a bunch of TikTokers kind of just be clown, he be clown himself on video.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how to deal with that. Just people all throughout the world laughing at him. And so he wanted to get his get back and work with the Church of Scientology and got this restraining order, but it didn't work out for him. And
Yeah, he got on the wrong
more
side.
humiliated than ever.
Absolutely. Ken's channel, can they do a winter wonderland? What do you think? That is a great question,
No
Ken,
chance.
because it's not September. Look at me. I've just erased an entire month. It's the end of July. So they need to start prepping, I would think, by probably before September to do it. So do you think they would actually not hold Winter Wonderland because of this?
I hope they do. I hope they do.
I know. I hope
It
they
won't go
do
well for
too.
them. It absolutely, listen, last time we basically shut that place down and we'd have 60, 70, 80 people in front of it. And this time it'd be 300, it'd be 400. People would come out from everywhere just to watch that show. There's no chance that they can have that.
Yeah, that is true. That is so true. Because this is just taking on a life of its own in so many ways. There's so many people that have been following these protests and all of you on social media that you're right. To have a winter wonderland again, people remember it from last year and what happened. They're going to want to come out.
People will travel here. We'll make LA a travel destination just to come out and watch those protests because they did it last year. But there'll be more of them this year. No, I don't know what the Church of Scientology does, but that's their problem. They have to figure it out.
Yeah, they do. I love it. I got to say too, just thank you so much. I've told you this before, starting doing what you're doing and what you did that when it all started that one fateful day in front of the Hollywood Testing Center and your persistence because you were doing it on your own for a few months and it grew, when Jessica and Confident Chris showed up and how they've continued to do this. I know I've enjoyed watching the process and seeing how even how Jessica's grown in this, how Confident Chris has grown in this. I was worried about Chris when he was assaulted that one time. I thought that might be it for him and it would have completely been okay. Instead, he goes and he takes boxing lessons and he shows back up.
He doubled down after that.
Yeah,
I'm proud of him because I was worried too. I was thinking to myself, his name is Confident Chris for a reason. He's got this certain confidence to him. And I was like, I don't want that assault to take away. And it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Not one bit.
It didn't. Paralyzed to Paralyzed says, the William Gude Christmas special live from Hollywood Boulevard.
Hey, maybe we'll put on our own show. We'll have our own little setup over there on the sidewalk. Why not?
That would be so amazing.
Yeah,
That would be so great.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you again so much for being here. Everybody, you guys know where to find them, and you want to keep an eye because it sounds like they're going to be out there tonight. Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Gude. That's his page here on YouTube. You can find him there and see what's going to be happening later. I can't wait to hear and just see even moving forward. I feel like it's a whole new era in a way, even for these protests. I think these recent wins are really going to give them even more life. And also people seeing, a lot of what you're saying about making it inclusive, making these protests family friendly, doing that and creating community around it and supporting businesses even when you can around these Scientology organizations. I think it's just a win-win. It is. I love
If
it.
I can add, listen, we're in August, right? This is
Yeah.
a political season, right? It doesn't matter what political affiliation you have. Everybody can go out there and ask their local politician, senator, congressperson, a mayor, a council member. What is your stance on the Church of Scientology's tax exempt status? If they're elected, any position, if they're a county commissioner, a tax commissioner, a dog
Mhm.
catcher, if they're elected, ask them, what is your position on the Church of Scientology's tax exempt status? If they say, well, listen, we have no control over it, I understand you have no control over it. I'm asking you, what is your position on it? Should they keep their tax exempt status or not? And get them on the record. Make it a thing of it. This is, again, this is the political season. This is when we can start hammering away at these things.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And there are other people too that are doing more work on that. Like Fat Grammy here on YouTube has been doing a lot to try and put together where just that, how you can get people to connect with their elected officials and call for that. What are your thoughts on this? Where do you stand on it? All of that. And I love seeing people who are protesting who live locally, like out of LA, and literally Michael and literally Serge, who've shown up to these meetings, even as residents. I feel like that holds a lot of weight because they're like, hey, these are your people in the community.
They are great. All three of them right there are just fantastic. Michael, Serge, and especially Audit. She's just a whole force.
Yeah, she is. She absolutely is. All right. Well, thank you, William, as usual, for being here. Everybody, if you could go show some aloha to that like button and that subscribe button as well, I would absolutely appreciate it. Everybody, I hope you guys have an amazing cult free night.